Marcus Chen straightened his black suit jacket as the transport ship approached the massive space station. Through the window, he could see the enormous structure spinning slowly against the stars. The Galactic Council's headquarters looked like a metal city floating in space, with towers and domes connected by bridges of light. Chen was not impressed. He had seen bigger structures destroyed by smaller forces. The transport pilot, a nervous young man from Earth's diplomatic corps, glanced back at him. "Ambassador Chen, we'll be docking in 5 minutes. The council representatives will meet you at airlock 7. Chen nodded without speaking. He checked his appearance in the small mirror built into the ship's wall. His short black hair was neat, his face clean-shaven, his tie perfectly straight. He looked exactly like what he was supposed to be. A middle-aged human diplomat on his first major assignment. The files said Marcus Chen had spent 15 years in Earth's diplomatic service. He had degrees in alien cultures and interstellar law. He spoke 7 different alien languages. His record showed successful negotiations with mining corporations and trade agreements with outer colony worlds. The files did not mention what Marcus Chen had done before becoming a diplomat. Those parts of his record were covered in thick black lines that made the pages look like they had been painted with ink. The transport shuddered slightly as it connected to the station's docking port. Chen picked up his briefcase and walked toward the airlock. Inside the case were documents requesting humanity's membership in the Galactic Council. The papers were real. The request was sincere. But Marcus Chen had other reasons for being here. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Chen stepped into a corridor that stretched far in both directions. The walls were made of some kind of white metal that seemed to glow with its own light. Aliens of different species walked past him, some on legs, some floating, some moving in ways that made no sense to human eyes. 3 figures waited for him near the airlock. The first was tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. This was Ambassador Keth of the Zilani, the telepathic species that helped run the Council's day-to-day operations. The second was much larger, covered in thick gray scales and standing on 2 massive legs. This was Gornek's representative Thalar, whose people controlled several important mining worlds. The third figure was the most unsettling. It looked almost human, but its skin was too pale and its eyes were completely black. This was Speaker Vex of the Ethereal Collective. "Ambassador Chen," said Keth in accented but clear English. "Welcome to Council Station. We hope your journey was comfortable." Chen smiled politely. "Thank you. It was very smooth. I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak with the Council." Speaker Vex's black eyes studied Chen carefully. "You are younger than we expected. Earth's previous messages suggested they would send someone with more experience. I have enough experience for this task," Chen replied. His voice was calm and professional. "I'm here to present humanity's case for Council membership. I believe we can offer valuable contributions to the galactic community." The 3 aliens exchanged glances. Chen noticed the look, but did not react. He had seen that look before. On other worlds, in other meetings, it was the look of predators sizing up prey. Representative Thalar spoke in a voice like rocks grinding together. "Come. The full council waits in the main chamber. Do not expect this meeting to take long." They walked through corridors filled with aliens. Chen recognized most of the species from his studies. The Vorthak looked like giant insects with armor-plated bodies and sharp claws. The Keldan moved like flowing water in transparent suits. The Zephyrians floated in small clouds of gas that glowed different colors. All of them stopped to stare at Chen as he passed. He was the only human on the station, and he looked very small next to most of the other species. Several of them made sounds that might have been laughter. The main council chamber was enormous. The ceiling stretched up so high that Chen could barely see it. 7 large seats were arranged in a circle around a small platform in the center. Each seat was designed for a different species, and each one was occupied by a representative of one of the major powers in the galaxy. Chen was led to the platform in the center. He set his briefcase down and opened it, removing a datapad containing humanity's formal request for membership. The largest figure in the chamber leaned forward. This was Vorthak Prime Zakth, the military leader of the insect-like Vorthak Empire. When he spoke, His voice buzzed like an angry swarm. So, Zakth said, the mammals from the small blue world wish to join us. Tell us, little human, what could your weak species possibly offer the Council? Chen looked up at the massive alien without fear. Humanity offers innovation, determination, and loyalty to our allies. We have developed new technologies for space travel and resource management. Our scientists have made breakthroughs in energy production and medical treatment. We believe we can learn from the Council's wisdom while contributing our own knowledge. Several of the Council members made noises that were definitely laughter this time. Ambassador Keth smiled with too many teeth. Your species has been in space for less than 200 years, Keth said. The youngest member of this council has been spacefaring for over 3,000 years. What innovation could you possibly offer us? Chen's expression did not change. Sometimes a fresh perspective can solve old problems. We would be honored to try. Speaker Vex floated slightly in his chair, his black eyes fixed on Chen. We have examined your species' history. Humans are violent and unpredictable. You fight constant wars among yourselves. You destroy your own planets. Why should civilized species trust you? Every species has a violent past, Chen replied. What matters is how we choose to grow from it. Humanity is ready to be part of something larger than ourselves. Prime Zizakth's mandibles clicked together in what might have been amusement. Ready? Your species is barely past the stage of throwing rocks at each other. You have no significant military force, no advanced technology that we need, no resources we cannot take from uninhabited worlds. You offer us nothing. The other council members nodded in agreement. Chen noticed that several of them were no longer even pretending to take the meeting seriously. Representative Thalar was reading something on a small device. Two of the floating ethereals seemed to be having a private conversation. Chen waited for them to finish. When the chamber was quiet, he spoke again. I understand your concerns, he said. Perhaps humanity is not ready for full membership immediately. We would be willing to accept a probationary period, or perhaps an associate membership, while we prove ourselves. This time, the laughter from the council was loud enough to echo through the enormous chamber. Prime Zizakth stood up to his full height, towering over the platform where Chen stood. You misunderstand, mammal, the Vorthak leader said. We are not rejecting your application. We are rejecting your species' right to make an application. Humans will never be members of this council. You are insects. We do not negotiate with insects. Chen's hands remained steady on his briefcase. His breathing did not change. But something shifted behind his eyes, something that the council members were too busy laughing to notice. I see, Chen said quietly. Then I suppose we have nothing more to discuss. But the council was not finished with him yet. Ambassador Keth raised one of his 4 hands, and the laughter in the council chamber slowly died down. His blue face carried a smile that looked almost friendly. But Chen noticed that the Zalani's black eyes held no warmth at all. Actually, Keth said, we do have more to discuss. You see, Ambassador Chen, your government sent you here believing this was a simple membership application, but we have been in communication with Earth for several weeks now. Chen felt something cold settle in his stomach, but his face remained calm. I was not informed of any prior communications. No, Speaker Vex agreed, his pale face showing what might have been amusement. You were not. We felt it was better to handle certain negotiations directly with Earth's leadership, without the complications of a middleman. Prime Zakth clicked his mandibles together. Tell him, Keth. Tell the little human what his leaders have already agreed to. Keth touched a device on his chair, and a holographic display appeared in the air above Chen's head. It showed official Earth government documents with signatures and seals that looked completely authentic. Your President Williams and the Earth Council have already signed these agreements, Keth explained. Humanity has accepted protectorate status under Galactic Council authority. This means Earth will provide resources and labor to Council member species, in exchange for protection and guidance. Chen studied the documents floating above him. They looked real. The signatures appeared genuine. But he knew they had to be fake, because no Earth government would ever sign such papers without telling him. These documents are forgeries, Chen said quietly. Representative Thalar's massive head swung toward Chen. Are you calling the Galactic Council liars, mammal? I'm saying these documents do not represent Earth's true position, Chen replied. I would have been informed of any such agreements. Keth laughed, a sound like wind chimes made of glass. You still do not understand your situation. Let me explain it more clearly. The Zilani touched his device again, and the holographic display changed. Now it showed Chen himself, standing in this very chamber. But in this version of events, Chen was nodding and smiling as he agreed to make humanity into servants of the Council. Your own species will see this recording, Keth explained. They will believe that their trusted ambassador betrayed them. They will think you sold them into slavery for personal gain. By the time you return to Earth, if you return to Earth, you will be the most hated human who ever lived. Chen watched his false image agreeing to things he would never say. The technology was impressive. The fake recording was almost perfect. Almost. You have made one mistake, Chen said. Have we? Speaker Vex asked. What mistake is that? You assume I care what people think of me. The council members looked at each other. This was clearly not the reaction they had expected. Most species they dealt with cared very much about their reputations and their standing with their own people. Prime Zizak leaned forward on his massive claws. Perhaps you do not understand yet. Let me make it clearer. Your ship has been impounded. Your communication equipment has been confiscated. You have no way to contact Earth to tell them the truth about these recordings. You are alone here, with no friends and no allies. Chen nodded slowly. I see. And what exactly do you want from me? We want you to play your part, Keth explained. You will record a message to Earth, confirming that you have negotiated these agreements in good faith. You will tell your people that serving the Council is humanity's best chance for survival. You will convince them to accept their new status without resistance. And if I refuse? Representative Thalar stood up to his full, impressive height. His gray scales gleamed under the chamber's lights, and his massive hands ended in claws that could tear through metal. If you refuse, Thalar said, we will make sure you never leave this station alive. Your people will still see the false recordings. They will still believe you betrayed them, but you will not be alive to see their hatred. Chen looked around the chamber at the 7 most powerful beings in known space. Each of them was larger than him, stronger than him, and backed by fleets of warships and armies of soldiers. By any reasonable calculation, he was completely helpless. I need time to think about this, Chen said. You have 1 hour, Prime Zakth declared. Guards will escort you to a holding room. When you return, you will either record the message we require, or you will die. Choose wisely, little human. 4 Vorthak warriors entered the chamber. Each of them was over 7 feet tall, covered in natural armor plating, and armed with energy weapons that could cut through steel. Their insect-like faces showed no emotion as they surrounded Chen's platform. Chen picked up his briefcase and stepped down from the platform without protest. The warriors formed a square around him and marched him toward one of the chamber's side exits. As they walked, Chen noticed details that most prisoners would miss: the positioning of security cameras, the locations of weapon scanners, the patrol routes of additional guards, the emergency exits that were marked but not obviously watched. Marcus Chen had been trained to notice these things. They took him to a small room with white walls and a single chair. There were no windows, and the door locked from the outside with a solid click. One of the Vorthak warriors spoke in his buzzing language before they left him alone. Chen sat down in the chair and opened his briefcase. Inside, along with the diplomatic papers, were several items that looked like ordinary office supplies. A pen that was not actually a pen, a calculator that did not calculate numbers, a small mirror that could do much more than show reflections. He had told the council the truth about one thing. He really did need time to think, but not about whether to cooperate with their demands. Chen was thinking about how many of them he could kill before they managed to stop him. The hour passed quickly. When the Vorthak warriors returned to collect him, Chen was sitting in exactly the same position they had left him. His briefcase was closed. His suit was neat, and his expression was calm. "Time is up, mammal," the lead warrior buzzed. "Prime Zizakth waits for your answer." Chen stood up and straightened his tie. "Then let's not keep him waiting." They marched him back through the corridors of the station. Other aliens stopped to stare at the small human being escorted by 4 armed warriors. Some of them made comments in languages Chen understood perfectly, though he pretended not to hear them. "Look at the little mammal," one of them said. "He thought he could negotiate with his betters." "Humans are even weaker than we heard," said another. "No wonder the council is making them into slaves." Chen kept walking and said nothing. When they reached the council chamber, the 7 representatives were waiting for him exactly as before. Prime Zizakth's mandibles clicked impatiently as Chen was led back to the central platform. "Well, human?" the Vorthak leader demanded. Chen looked up at each of the council members in turn. Ambassador Keth with his 4 arms and predatory smile. Representative Thalar with his massive claws and gray scales. Speaker Vex with his pale skin and black eyes. The other 4 representatives watching with various expressions of amusement and contempt. "I have made my decision," Chen said quietly. "And?" Prime Zakth leaned forward eagerly. Chen straightened his shoulders and looked directly into the Vorthak leader's compound eyes. "I choose a third option," he said. Before anyone in the chamber could react to his words, Chen moved. The transformation was so sudden and so complete that for a moment, the council members could not understand what they were seeing. The polite diplomat was gone. In his place stood something that moved like death itself. The lead Vorthak warrior was the first to react. His combat training kicked in as soon as he saw Chen move, and his clawed hand reached for the energy weapon at his belt. The warrior was fast, trained from birth to kill efficiently, enhanced with cybernetic reflexes that could track a bullet in flight. He was not fast enough. Chen's movement was so simple that most of the council members missed it entirely. One step to the left, one hand rising to meet the warrior's reaching arm, and a small twist of his wrist. The sound was quiet, like a stick breaking in the forest. The 7-foot killing machine dropped to the floor like a broken toy. The council chamber fell completely silent. The massive Vorthak warrior lay motionless on the white floor, his head twisted at an angle that should not have been possible. His compound eyes stared at nothing, and his claws were still inches away from his weapon. Chen stepped back to his original position and smoothed down his suit jacket. He looked exactly like he had moments before, except for one thing. His eyes had changed. Where there had been the calm, patient look of a diplomat, now there was something else entirely. Something that evaluated threats and calculated kill ratios. Prime Zizakth stared down at his fallen warrior. The insect-like leader had seen combat across a dozen worlds. He had watched his soldiers die in battles against enemy armies and in duels against champions of other species, but he had never seen anything die that quickly or that quietly. "What did you do?" Zakth demanded, his voice buzzing with confusion and growing anger. Chen straightened his tie and looked up at the Vorthak leader. "I chose the third option," he repeated calmly. Representative Thaler stood up so fast that his massive chair scraped against the floor. "Guards!" he roared in his grinding voice. "Kill the human." The remaining 3 Vorthak warriors in the chamber raised their weapons instantly. Their energy rifles charged with a high-pitched whine, and targeting lasers painted red dots on Chen's chest. But before any of them could fire, Chen was moving again. This time, the council members could see more of what happened, though they still could not believe it. Chen dove to the side, as the first energy bolt sizzled through the air where he had been standing. He rolled behind the central platform just as 2 more shots struck the floor, leaving smoking holes in the white metal. Ambassador Keth leaned forward in his chair, his 4 hands gripping the armrests. "He is only a human diplomat," the Zilani called out. 3 warriors should be more than enough, but Chen was not hiding behind the platform. He was using it as cover while he opened his briefcase and removed items that had looked like ordinary office supplies when the council first saw them. The pen that was not a pen extended into something that looked like a small crossbow. The calculator that did not calculate numbers folded out into a device with a short barrel and a trigger. The mirror that could do more than show reflections began to glow with a soft blue light. When Chen rolled back into view, the 3 Vorthak warriors were ready for him. They had spread out to cover different angles, and their weapons were aimed at where he would have to appear. What they were not ready for was the small projectile that struck the first warrior in the gap between his chest armor and helmet. The warrior dropped his weapon and clawed at his neck for exactly 3 seconds before falling over backward. The second warrior turned to aim at Chen's new position, but Chen was already gone again. This time he came up behind the warrior, and there was a brief struggle that ended when Chen's hands found the right pressure points on the alien's armored neck. The third warrior was the smartest. Instead of trying to track Chen's movements, he aimed at the platform itself and began firing energy bolts that could punch through the metal structure. Pieces of the platform exploded outward, and sparks flew from damaged systems in the floor. Chen appeared at the warrior's side like he had stepped out of empty air. The device that had been a calculator made a soft clicking sound, and the warrior's energy rifle simply stopped working. Before the alien could understand what had happened, Chen's hands were on his weapon, twisting it out of his grip and using the rifle's stock to strike at vital points on the warrior's body. In less than 10 seconds, 4 of the Vorthak Empire's finest soldiers were dead on the council chamber floor. Chen set the broken rifle down carefully and walked back toward the center of the chamber. His suit was slightly rumpled now, and there was a small tear in his left sleeve, but otherwise he looked exactly like the diplomat who had entered the chamber an hour ago. The council members stared down at him in shocked silence. Speaker Vex was the first to find his voice. "That is impossible," the ethereal said, his black eyes wide. "Humans do not move that way. Humans do not fight that way." Chen looked up at him with polite interest. "How exactly do humans fight, Speaker Vex?" "Clumsily," Ambassador Keth answered, his blue skin pale with shock. "Slowly. With primitive weapons and no real strategy. Your species has never produced warriors that could match a single Vorthak soldier, let alone 4 of them." "I see," Chen said. He bent down and picked up one of the fallen energy rifles, examining it with the casual interest of someone looking at a museum display. "And what do your intelligence reports say about human military capabilities?" Representative Thalar's massive hands were clenched into fists. "Our reports say that humans have small, weak armies with outdated equipment. Your ships are slow and lightly armed. Your soldiers are untrained and undisciplined." Chen nodded thoughtfully. "Those reports are not entirely wrong," he admitted. "Most humans are exactly as weak as you believe. Most of our ships are exactly as slow as your intelligence suggests. Most of our soldiers are exactly as poorly trained as your data indicates." He set the energy rifle down and looked up at each council member in turn. "But you see, I am not most humans." Prime Zizak's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. "What are you then? What kind of human kills Vorthak warriors with his bare hands?" For the first time since entering the chamber, Chen smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "I am the kind of human that other humans send when they need something to stop existing," he said quietly. "I am the kind of human that makes problems disappear completely and permanently. I am the kind of human that your intelligence services have never encountered before, because the ones who encountered me are no longer available to file reports." Ambassador Keth's telepathic abilities were among the strongest in the known galaxy. Almost without thinking, he reached out with his mind to probe Chen's thoughts, looking for weakness or fear, or some advantage the council could use. What Keth found instead nearly drove him insane. The Zalani's scream echoed through the enormous chamber as he threw himself backward in his chair, all 4 arms clutching at his head. Blood ran from his nose and ears as his mind recoiled from what he had seen in Chen's memories. "Do not do that again," Chen advised calmly. "Most telepaths who try to read my mind do not recover as well as you just did." Keth gasped for air, his blue face now almost white with terror. "What are you?" he whispered. Chen straightened his tie one more time and looked around at the 7 most powerful beings in the galaxy, each of whom was now staring at him like he was something that had crawled out of their worst nightmares. "I am Marcus Chen," he said simply. "And until a few minutes ago, I was your best chance for a peaceful solution to the human problem." Prime Zizak managed to find his voice again. "What do you mean?" "What?" Chen's smile grew a little wider, and the temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. "I mean that I tried diplomacy first," he said. That was your opportunity to say no politely. Prime Zizak's claws scraped against his chair as he leaned forward. You speak of diplomacy, but you have murdered my warriors. This is an act of war against the Vorthak Empire. Chen looked down at the 4 bodies scattered around the chamber floor. These warriors attempted to arrest me on false charges. I defended myself. If the Vorthak Empire considers lawful self-defense to be an act of war, then perhaps the Empire needs to reconsider its legal system. Self-defense? Representative Thalar's voice rumbled like an avalanche. You killed 4 armed soldiers in seconds. No diplomat has that kind of training. You are correct, Chen agreed. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device that looked like a standard communication unit, but when he activated it, the device projected a holographic display that showed something very different from diplomatic credentials. The display showed Marcus Chen's real military record, not the sanitized version that Earth's diplomatic corps had been given, but the actual file from humanity's Special Operations Command. The numbers on the screen made no sense at first, until the council members realized they were body counts. My name is Marcus Chen, he said calmly. I hold the rank of Colonel in Earth's Shadow Corps. My official designation is Problem Solver. My unofficial designation is the Human Diplomatic Solution. DC. DC. Ambassador Keth wiped blood from his nose with a shaking hand. What is the Shadow Corps? We are the humans you never see coming, Chen explained. We are the ones who arrive after negotiations fail. We are the ones who make sure failed negotiations do not become larger problems. The holographic display changed, showing a star map with dozens of red markers scattered across several sectors of space. Each marker represented a mission, and each mission represented something that no longer existed. 63 species have made the mistake of threatening humanity, Chen continued. 63 species have decided that humans were weak enough to be enslaved, eaten, experimented on, or simply wiped out for their own convenience. Speaker Vex's black eyes fixed on the star map. Where are they now? Chen's smile was as cold as the space between stars. They are not. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop even further. The council members looked at the red markers on the map and began to understand what they were seeing. Each mark was not just a failed species, it was a completely extinct species. You committed genocide, whispered one of the other representatives, a floating creature made of crystalline structures that rang like bells when it spoke. I committed pest control, Chen corrected. These species chose to see humanity as prey. I helped them understand that they were mistaken about which species was the predator. Prime Zizak stood up to his full height, towering over the chamber. You are one human on a space station controlled by the 7 most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Do you think your threats frighten us? Chen looked up at the massive insect-like leader without concern. I do not make threats. Prime Zizak. I provide information. You have approximately 90 seconds to decide whether you want that information to include details about how your species joins the 63 red marks on that map. 90 seconds until what? Representative Thalar demanded. Chen checked a device on his wrist. Until your security systems detect the modifications I made to your station's power core during my little hour of thinking time. Effer1. We say the Partijus groated. We say that the Paradas weather. The blood drained from Ambassador Keth's already pale blue face. You could not have reached the power core. Our security is perfect. Your security is designed to stop normal threats, Chen agreed. Armies, saboteurs, conventional weapons. It is not designed to stop someone like me. He touched another control on his wrist device, and every screen in the council chamber suddenly displayed the same image. The interior of the space station's main power core, with several small devices attached to critical systems. Each device was blinking with a soft red light. Those are fusion charges, Chen explained helpfully. Not very large ones, but they are positioned to create what humans call a cascade failure. When they explode, your main reactor will overload and take most of this station with it. The blast will be visible from 3 star systems away. Speaker Vex floated higher in his chair, his pale face twisted with rage. You are insane. You will die with us. Yes, Chen agreed. I will. That is what makes this a very effective negotiating position. Prime Zizak's mandibles clicked frantically. What do you want? Chen looked around the chamber at the 7 representatives. Each of them was now staring at him like he was a live bomb with a broken timer. I want you to understand something very important, Chen said calmly. Earth did not send me here to beg for membership in your little club. Earth sent me here to evaluate whether your organization represented a threat to human interests. The star map display changed again, showing a new set of markers. These were not red, but blue, and they surrounded every major council world. While I was sitting in that little room thinking, I was not just planning how to kill you, Chen continued. I was transmitting my evaluation to Earth Command. Based on your behavior today, I have classified the Galactic Council as a hostile organization that represents a clear and present danger to human survival. Ambassador Keth managed to find his voice. What does that mean? It means that Earth's real diplomatic team is now preparing to make you a much simpler offer, Chen explained. You can surrender unconditionally, or you can be eliminated entirely. There is no third option. Chen. Ode. There is no third option. Representative Thaler slammed his massive fist on his chair. Your species does not have the military power to threaten the Council. Our combined fleets could destroy your entire world, Chen nodded thoughtfully. That is what your intelligence reports tell you, yes. But as I mentioned before, those reports are not entirely accurate. He touched his wrist device again, and the display showed something that made every council member fall silent. It was a tactical readout of the space around the council station. But what it showed was impossible. There were ships out there, hundreds of them, surrounding the station at distances that should have made detection impossible. But they were not showing up on the station's sensors, and they had not been there when Chen arrived. The Shadow Fleet has been watching this meeting, Chen explained. They have been watching the council for several months, actually. We needed to understand your capabilities before we decided how to proceed. Prime Zizak stared at the display. How long have your ships been there? Since before I arrived, Chen said. They have been cloaked and waiting. The technology is something we developed from studying the wreckage of the last 63 species that underestimated us. Speaker Vex's black eyes were wide with something that might have been respect or terror. You have been planning this from the beginning. Planning is what humans do best. Chen agreed. We are very good at looking weak until the moment we need to look strong. We are very good at appearing helpless until the moment we need to appear deadly. And we are very good at offering peaceful solutions right up until the moment we decide to offer permanent ones. He glanced at his wrist device again. 30 seconds. Wait! Ambassador Keth called out desperately. Chen smiled, and this time there was no warmth in the expression at all. I want you to remember this moment, he said quietly. I want you to remember what it feels like to realize that you are not the apex predator you believed yourselves to be. I want you to remember that Marcus Chen tried diplomacy first, and you chose to respond with threats and humiliation. And then what? Prime Zizak demanded. Chen checked his device one final time. Then I want you to surrender to the humans who are about to arrive and explain this situation much more directly than I have. The fusion charges activated with a series of soft beeps that somehow managed to sound almost cheerful, but instead of exploding, they simply shut down the station's main power core, plunging the council chamber into emergency lighting. A moment later, the chamber's main doors opened, and humans in black military armor began filing into the room. They moved with the same deadly efficiency that Chen had shown, and their weapons were aimed at each of the council representatives. The lead figure removed her helmet, revealing a woman with short gray hair and eyes like chips of ice. Colonel Chen, she said formally. Shadow Fleet Command sends their compliments. How did the diplomatic phase of this operation proceed? Chen straightened his tie one last time and picked up his briefcase. The diplomatic phase was a complete success, General Morrison, he reported. The Galactic Council has agreed to discuss new terms for interspecies relations. General Morrison looked around at the dead Vorthak warriors, the terrified council members, And the emergency lighting. I see, she said dryly. And these new terms would be? Chen walked toward the door, stepping carefully around the bodies on the floor. Unconditional surrender, he said calmly. Or total extinction. The council members can choose which option they prefer. He paused at the doorway and looked back at the 7 most powerful beings in the galaxy, each of whom was now staring down the barrels of human weapons. I did try diplomacy first, he reminded them. That was your opportunity to say no politely. General Morrison walked slowly around the council chamber, her boots clicking against the white floor. The emergency lighting cast strange shadows that made her look even more intimidating than she already was. Behind her, 24 human soldiers in black armor maintained perfect firing positions on each of the council representatives. This is quite impressive, Morrison said, looking down at the dead Vorthak warriors. 4 elite soldiers eliminated in what? Less than 2 minutes? 1 minute and 37 seconds, Chen replied, checking his chronometer. I am getting slower with age. Prime, Zizak's mandibles clicked nervously. You cannot hold us here forever. The Council controls 7-star empires with thousands of ships and billions of soldiers. When they learn what has happened, they already know what has happened, Morrison interrupted. She touched a device on her armor, and the chamber's main display screen flickered back to life. Perhaps you would like to see how your empires are responding to the news. The screen showed space battle footage from 7 different star systems. But these were not the glorious fleet engagements that the Council species were used to winning. These were systematic massacres. Vorthak warships exploded in silent flashes as weapons they could not see struck them from impossible ranges. Gornek's battlecruisers tried to return fire against targets that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Zelani mind control ships found themselves outmaneuvered by humans who seemed immune to their telepathic influences. How? Ambassador Keth whispered, blood still trickling from his nose. Our fleets are the most powerful in the galaxy. Our technology is thousands of years more advanced than yours. Chen walked back toward the center of the chamber, stepping around the debris from his earlier fight. Your technology is more advanced than what we have shown you, but it is not more advanced than what we actually have. The display changed to show a human warship unlike anything the Council had ever seen. It was enormous, easily twice the size of the largest Vorthak dreadnought, and its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Shadow Fleet represents humanity's actual military capability, Morrison explained. What your spies and intelligence services have been observing for the past 50 years are our mining ships and exploration vessels. We thought it was better to let you underestimate us while we learned about your capabilities. Speaker Vex's black eyes stared at the impossible ship on the screen. For 50 years, you have been lying to us about your strength. We have been selective about which truths to share, Chen corrected. It is a very human approach to diplomacy. We prefer to negotiate from a position of hidden strength, rather than obvious weakness. Representative Thalar's massive hands gripped his chair so hard that the metal began to bend. What do you want from us? Morrison smiled, and the expression was somehow even more frightening than Chen's had been. We want exactly what we have always wanted. Peace, prosperity, and the freedom to pursue our own destiny among the stars. Then why this? Prime Zakth gestured toward the dead warriors and the tactical displays showing the destruction of Council fleets. Why the deception? Why the violence? Because you could not allow us to have those things, Chen answered simply. Your entire civilization is built on the idea that might makes right, that the strong rule the weak, that lesser species exist to serve greater ones. You could never have accepted humanity as an equal partner. Ambassador Keth shook his head weakly. We might have found a way to coexist. There was no need for this slaughter. Morrison laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Ambassador Chen tried to find a way to coexist. He came here with a genuine offer of partnership and mutual benefit. Your response was to try to enslave his entire species. She walked closer to Keth's chair, and the blue-skinned alien shrank back from her approach. You made humans into your enemies the moment you decided we were too weak to matter, Morrison continued. You could have had us as allies. You could have had us as trading partners. You could have had us as friends. Instead, you chose to have us as your executioners. The tactical display updated to show the current status of the 7 Council empires. The numbers were not encouraging for the aliens. Fleet strengths were dropping rapidly. Major military installations were going offline. Communications networks were failing across multiple star systems. Your military forces are being systematically eliminated, Morrison reported clinically. Your command structures are being disrupted. Your production facilities are being captured intact. By this time tomorrow, the Galactic Council will cease to exist as a political entity. Speaker Vex floated higher in his chair, his pale face twisted with rage and desperation. You cannot simply destroy 7 civilizations. There are billions of innocent civilians on our worlds. We are not destroying your civilizations, Chen said calmly. We are restructuring them. Your civilian populations will be unharmed, as long as they do not resist the transition to new management. New management? Representative Thalar asked. Morrison nodded. Each of your species will be governed by a human administrator until you can demonstrate that you understand the new reality. You will be taught how to coexist peacefully with other species, including each other. You will be educated about the concept of diplomatic immunity, and you will learn to value negotiation over intimidation. Prime Zizakth's entire body shook with fury. You expect us to become your slaves, just as you tried to make us yours? No, Chen replied. We expect you to become civilized. There is a significant difference. The display screen changed one final time, showing a new star map. This version covered the entire galaxy, with Earth at the center surrounded by expanding circles of blue markers. The progression was clear. Humanity had not simply been hiding in their small corner of space. They had been spreading outward for decades, establishing hidden bases and monitoring stations throughout known space. How long have you been planning this? Ambassador Keth asked in a broken voice. Since first contact, Morrison answered. The moment we learned that intelligent life existed among the stars, we began preparing for the possibility that this life might be hostile. We have been watching you, learning from you, and preparing to defend ourselves against you. She gestured toward the tactical displays showing the ongoing battles. Your mistake was assuming that a young species must be a weak species. Human civilization is only a few thousand years old, but we have spent those thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare. We are very, very good at killing things that threaten us. Chen walked over to where his briefcase sat beside the central platform. The original documents I brought to this meeting were genuine, he said as he picked up the case. Humanity really did want to join the Galactic Council. We really did hope for peaceful cooperation and mutual benefit. He looked around at each of the council members in turn. But we also planned for the possibility that you would reveal yourselves to be exactly what you have proven to be. Predators who see other species as prey to be consumed or tools to be used. Prime Zizakth managed to find his voice one last time. What happens now? Morrison checked her chronometer. Now you have a choice. You can cooperate with the transition to human leadership, in which case your species will be treated with the same respect and dignity that you should have shown to others. Your people will be free to pursue their own cultures and traditions, as long as those traditions do not involve enslaving or exterminating other species. And if we refuse? Speaker Vex asked. Chen's smile returned, colder than the vacuum of space. If you refuse, then you join the 63 other species that made the same choice. Your civilizations become archaeological curiosities, and the galaxy becomes a safer place for the species that survive you. The council chamber fell silent, except for the hum of emergency lighting and the distant sounds of the human soldiers' equipment. The 7 most powerful beings in the galaxy sat in their chairs like children being scolded by adults who had finally lost patience with their behavior. We need time to consider your offer, Ambassador Keth said finally. No, Morrison replied immediately. You need to decide right now, while your fleets are still capable of surrendering instead of simply being destroyed. Every minute you delay means more of your people die unnecessarily. She walked back to the center of the chamber and stood beside Chen. Together, They looked up at the representatives of 7 star-spanning empires that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Humanity tried to join you as equals, Morrison said quietly. You chose to see us as inferiors to be enslaved. Now you can join us as students learning to be better than you were. Or you can cease to exist entirely. Choose quickly. Prime Zizak looked around at his fellow council members. Each of them was staring at the tactical displays, showing their military forces being systematically dismantled by an enemy they had never bothered to understand. We surrender, the Vorthak leader said, his voice barely audible. Excellent choice, Chen replied, straightening his tie one final time. I was hoping we could end this diplomatically. He picked up his briefcase and walked toward the chamber's exit, with General Morrison and her soldiers following behind. At the doorway, he paused and looked back at the council representatives one last time. For what it is worth, he said quietly, I really did try diplomacy first. But sometimes the universe requires a more direct approach to problem solving. The chamber doors closed behind the humans with a soft hiss, leaving the former rulers of the galaxy alone with their dead warriors and their shattered pride. In the corridor outside, General Morrison fell into step beside Chen as they walked toward their extraction point. How do you feel about your first diplomatic assignment, Colonel? She asked. Chen considered the question seriously. I believe it went quite well, General. The negotiations were successful, and we achieved all of our primary objectives with minimal collateral damage. Morrison laughed. Minimal collateral damage? You just toppled 7 interstellar empires. Yes, Chen agreed, but I did it diplomatically.